Welcome to the Southern Girl Talks Back, Conversations with my 95-year-old grandmother. I am your host, Jake Posco, and this is episode 1. Welcome. So a little bit of a background as to what this is and where this came from. So around the time that my grandmother turned 80, she was given a computer for her birthday with the explicit request that she start documenting some of her memories. And 8 years later, the result of that turned into an actual memoir that she published. You can get it online. You can get it on Amazon. It's called A Southern Girl Looks Back by Honey Kimball. And, of course, once this was done, all of our family, got copies of it. And I remember reading through it and just, especially the early stuff from her life. You're talking she was born in 1920. And it resonated and hit me so hard, just the difference between what her life was truly like growing up and, the difference between what my life was like growing up and, what it's like now. And it was just really cool to be able to see that kind of stuff firsthand and to see the photos in the book from, even before she was born. But anyway, I was very sort of like taken with it, and I decided that it would be really cool to have kind of an audio version of the book, or just an audiobook with her reading it. But like most things, that never really came to fruition, and figured it would be kind of tedious to record just her sitting there reading from her book. So we decided to do something more interesting and more fun. And that is what this podcast or YouTube video, depending on how you're consuming it, is. These are just conversations that we have kind of based on her life, based on chunks of her book. And each one runs maybe an hour or so. So I hope you guys like it. We're doing it for our own fun. This is episode 1. Enjoy. But you were talking about doing research before.
Yeah.
So what kind of research did you do?
Well, I didn't do any. I didn't know what I was supposed to research.
Okay.
What you were going to start with, family or...
Okay. So I was thinking the same thing. I was like, all right, I'm going to do some research. So I pulled out your book, and you open it up, and it's like any page you pull there's crazy stuff to talk about. Like within the first 20 pages, it talks about your father and getting hit by a train. And how old are you at that point? 6.5?
Yes.
Yes. That's crazy.
I was little.
Yeah. So we don't want to, I would say let's not start with that. But maybe, so that was the other thing. So I think you were talking with Mom a couple days ago about your earliest memory. We were talking about it a second ago. So let's just do that then. What is the earliest thing you can possibly remember? How far back? Like what year, how old, all that stuff?
Well, I'd guess at a lot of this, but I was about 4 years old. And we had moved from, well, it was the earliest that we had moved from, we called it the country, where my father farmed. And we moved to Grayson so that the children would be able to go to high school.
So wait, back up a second. So when you said move from the country, what does that mean?
Well, I don't remember living at that place.
But that's Louisiana, right?
That's, yes.
Is there a name of it? Is there a city? Is it just...
We moved from LaSalle Parish. They don't have counties, they have parishes.
Okay.
And we moved to Caldwell Parish.
Okay.
And Grayson was there. Grayson had the best high school that my father could find.
Okay.
Before he needed this, because where we lived in the country, there were no buses that went. There was a bus that you could get that you drive an hour or so to Gina, a place where they had the high school.
All right.
And he didn't want to do that for the rest of them. The first children, the oldest children.
For the first,
did
how
that.
many children?
10.
Right. Okay. All right.
And so I'm the 10th one, and I don't know a lot of this. I got my information from them.
All right. So before we get to that point, because that was the other thing, like in going through the first, 20, 30 pages of the book, a lot of it was stuff before you were born. So it's obviously you don't remember that stuff, which is still really, really interesting. But so let's go back. Like, what is the very first thing that you feel like you can remember?
Okay.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I remember living in that house, and the older children were going to school,
Right.
and I wanted to go, and they actually let me go to school with them, and I got no report card, but it was something for me to do.
So that was when you were what, 4? You said.
Yeah,
Okay.
or 5 maybe.
Right. What about the outhouse thing?
I didn't want to tell that.
No, you got to tell that. That's the whole point.
Okay, when I told the girls, they told me don't remember that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the family that we lived near had some little boys, and they were a little bit older than I was. And I went out to the outhouse.
Right.
I don't have to explain what that is.
No, I think we know what outhouses are.
But these 2 kids took advantage of the opportunity. They found some kind of a stick and stuck in the back of it and poked me in my little behind.
That's awful. That is
It
your
was
earliest
horrible.
first memory.
Yeah, that would be it.
That's great. Okay, so having set up that kind of precedent, so then so talk about going to school, because that's one of the things that I don't know that kind of prompted me to want to do this too. So I think a lot about now my daughter Abby, who is 5, right? And we're doing the same thing now, where we want to make sure that she's going in a good school district. Obviously, it's different now than it was then, but even so, we want to make sure that we're in a good area and that kind of stuff. But I also start thinking about, it's weird, I start thinking about when I was, because we're talking about your first memory, I was thinking about how far back do I remember, and my early memories of preschool and that sort of thing. And then I imagine, this is when Abby starts to remember her kind of first days and that sort of stuff. So all of the stuff that I'm thinking about kind of is a result of that, I guess. But, so let's talk about what that was like when you first started going to school. You guys have moved. How old were you when you went to school for real? Does the 4.5-year-old count as being in school?
I don't think so.
Okay. So then how old were how old were you when school started and you started doing that?
Well, I guess 6.
And then what was a day, walk me through the day. Cause I was just talking with Mom about this morning, how Abby was getting up, getting her ready for school. I drive her to school, all that kind of stuff. And then we see kids waiting at the bus stop. So walk me through the moment you wake up to you get home from school. How does it work?
Yeah.
You have the roosters waking you up? I mean, how does it work?
Well, absolutely. Now that you remind me, the roosters did have had a say so. I remember I walked to school, and of course we now live in Grayson, and we have we're in a different area, and it's not that far to school. And I walked with my older brothers and sisters, and the classroom, there were just long tables and little chairs with a little bag on the side of the chair for you to put your books in. I don't know if maybe it was a shelf underneath the chair also that you could put your.
So how long the walk to school? How long is that? And how many kids are you walking with at this point?
Well, 3, I guess.
Okay, your brother
sisters? And sister.
Okay,
nearest to me in my age.
Right. So how long does it take to walk to school?
Probably 10 minutes. Not very far.
Right. Well, that's reasonable, right? Normal.
What?
That's normal. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
I guess kids would kind of do that today. 10 minutes seems still kind of far, but all right. So you walk to school, you get there, and then what are we learning? What's what's kindergarten or first grade, or how does it work?
It was first grade. We didn't have kindergarten for a long time.
Okay.
Well, we colored. We had my first crayons.
Okay.
So it was big time for me. And my own notebook.
Okay.
And we learned to ABCs and little songs, and had recess.
Do you remember any of that stuff? I feel every so often weird things from when I was in elementary school or kindergarten or whatever will pop into my head. just like random snippets of things you remember. Do you remember any like elementary school songs or any? What are some memories of like those times?
Yes, I remember some songs. I've distracted there for a minute. One of the things we did was to go to the auditorium,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, that might have been once a week, but stands out in my memory. And we sang patriotic songs,
All right.
and we had recess
Okay.
in the morning and one in the afternoon and after lunch.
All right. So what year is this? Are we talking now?
That would be 1927, 20.
26, 27, something like that.
Yeah.
And then, so like, give me an idea of the school itself. Because when I'm picturing it, I picture like a little like rickety old schoolhouse with, like one room kind of thing. But you're like, there's auditoriums and stuff. So this is a legit operation.
It was a 2-story
Okay.
building.
Okay.
And there were only about 15 to maybe not that, up to 15 kids in a class. And it wasn't too big a school,
How many classes were there? Like, how many kids do you think went to the school?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to guess that.
And then, all right, so keep going. So you have your normal recess, normal day, singing patriotic songs, all of that kind of stuff. Anything else that sticks out in your memory from grade school? From like those early days? Anything like friends and that kind of stuff? Like how long are you friends with those people before you move to the next school or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I never moved to a next school.
So all right, so talk about that. How did that work?
So we knew them forever. We knew the families. We knew.
But when like elementary school is over, do you go to like junior high school and then high school, or how does it work?
It was to the 8th grade. You went to the 8th grade, and then high school was 8, 9, 10, and 11 was the high school. Only 11 years we went.
Weird.
We were so smart.
So, and pretty much everybody that you went to school with starting in first grade, you just went to school with up until you graduate.
Pretty much.
Grade. All right. Okay, so then school's over and it's time to go home. How does that? You just walk back home and you're home by what? 2 o'clock? 3
We
o'clock?
actually, there were times when we went home for dinner, and dinner was in the middle of the day.
Right.
And you rushed home and ate and rushed back.
And why was that? Like, did the school have stuff set up? Like, was there like a lunchroom where I mean, this is weird stuff, right? Like, do you bring your lunch? Do you go and they serve you? How does that work?
You bring your lunch.
Okay.
But I do remember at one time they had hot soup at school for the kids who didn't have it. This was a poor area.
Right.
You don't really know what I mean when I say poor, but the kids didn't have much.
So what do you mean when you say poor? Because that's the other thing that we were talking about leading up to your early life. Like that you lived in the first, I think Mom and I were talking about this, but like in the first 30 years of your life, it's, you lived through the 20s, you lived through the Great Depression, you lived through World War II, you get married, you have your first child. Before you're 30, that's a lot of stuff to happen. You were busy. That's a lot of stuff to happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll get to all of that kind of stuff. So talk about, like, when you say poor, what does that mean? Like how...
Well, you didn't have it's ingredients, products to make a lunch.
Mm-hmm.
You had whatever you had for dinner the day before.
Right.
Or whatever you could slice and put in them.
Right.
2 pieces of a biscuit. We didn't even, that's before the loaves of bread,
Right.
And then they did somebody invented white bread.
Somebody
you
invented
could-
white bread. When was that?
Well, sometime during those years, I don't remember.
So that's the other thing that we're going to kind of talk about. These and we're getting off topic because I want to go back to something. But like as you go through the years, these different things are invented, right? And you just mentioned white bread. Do you remember what that was like when it was like, oh, all of a sudden we have white bread, white sliced bread or whatever that you can buy. We don't have to make it anymore or whatever.
Right.
Do you remember when that happened, or is it just
It's something I know happened. I don't remember a specific date that we
just all of a sudden now we don't
Yeah.
have to do this. We don't have to
Right.
make bread like this anymore.
But we didn't have little lunch packs.
Right.
You didn't have crackers other than saltines
Right.
and
So one of the things I'm going to talk about, we'll keep talking about lunch because this is fun. One of the things that you mentioned, I think, in your book was some kids didn't get to go to school because they would have to stay home and work or
yes.
whatever.
Yes.
So, talk about that. Did you, with your 9 siblings?
9 siblings.
9 siblings, you're the 10th. So, with your 9 siblings, did you experience that? Did you have siblings that had to stay home and just help out around the house? Did you have to do that?
I think my older brother was allowed to stop. He wanted to stop school to help his dad, help our dad.
How old do you think he was at that point?
Probably in his early teens.
So elementary school kids, grade school kids, they're going to school more or less.
Yeah, but I'm talking, they come in poorly dressed. Some kids don't have shoes.
Now, is that something that clearly if a kid like that came to school nowadays, it would be an oddity, right? People would recognize me all right, something's up with that. Was it something that was out of the norm for you, or is it just everybody is like this? Did you recognize growing up that was kind of
Yes,
you did?
I had more than some of them. I was one of on the low list, I would say, because of our circumstances. But there were kids there that I could see were bad off.
So you say circumstances. So talk about that. Talk about what your mom and dad do. What was their jobs?
Well, my dad is out of the picture already.
Already,
At
now
6.
that you're
That
grade
happened
school.
when in my first grade.
Okay.
Want me to tell you about that?
Sure.
No.
If you want to.
Well, when I remember the funeral, I remember the people coming to the house and saying, that there's been a train. I don't remember that either. I was told that's what happened. But I remember the funeral, and all these people came
Right.
to my house, which never had happened before. And I wasn't really understanding exactly what had happened. But I know, being poor, my teacher must have recognized that I didn't have good shoes.
Right.
And she came,
Right. Even all these many years ago, right? Still sticks with you,
yeah, that's silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
And brought, just a minute.
Yeah, take your time. Do you need a tissue or something?
Oh, I got a tissue. I'm
right.
okay. I'm okay. This is so silly. And so this poor little child, they brought 2 pairs of Mary Jane black patent shoes
Right.
to try to fit me.
Yeah.
And so one of them, of course, did.
Right. So you remember that. So you're remembering this. Is
and,
it like
and also, let me say, I remember my teacher, Miss Traylor, was there, and and I said, this was in May, and school was just out, and I said, Miss Traylor, I passed.
that's what was on your mind? That's what you had to share.
Like she wouldn't have known it. She was my teacher.
Okay. So then so a minute ago you talked about because of your circumstances you knew that you were better off than other people, right? So
Yeah.
So fast forward a couple years then. What were your circumstances then? It's how did you before your dad died, he was
he was like the provider, right?
Right.
Right. So what was he doing to provide for the family at that point? Even
Well,
you know what I mean?
we had been there. Well, we've already said had been there a couple of years, and he now has a job with the traffic highway department, and he had his own truck, and I don't know what he did at that job, but he had to go to a nearby town to get a part for the truck, and he went early in the morning. And my oldest brothers wanted to go with him, and he said, no, he said, I'll be back before time, just go ahead and sleep. So then later the two men came.
So that was the day. But yeah, but his job basically, he just had like a normal job. Right. All right. So then fast forward. So after that happens, how do you guys get by now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, now so if I'm, well, let's say first the two older children were already married when I was born.
Okay.
So now the other members of the family, the older girls, have finished high school and got a job. And the ones, let's see, what was I telling?
So you basically, the rest of the family sort of comes and helps out. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So they got jobs, and they would bring food to our house.
And that was that? That's how you just get
Yeah.
by. So, and your mom is at this point just kind of...
She has a garden.
Okay.
And she did the garden with one of those little push
right
plows.
And she's just kind of like running the household, making sure, and then you have just the support of all of your family. And then
yes,
I think in the book you also talked about neighbors and that sort of thing helping out. Is that how that works? Or I mean, like, the reason I'm saying it is now it's like if you have that sort of like tragedy nowadays, or if in our family or in my family, then yeah, of course you have like your family helping out, your brothers or sisters or whatever, parents and kids doing what you can, which seems to be how it's always been, or at least how it was when you're growing up. But talk a little bit about sort of the community then, right? So like your neighbors and friends and how did they help or support? And is it different now than it was then? Do you perceive a difference now? I guess that's the main question.
Yeah, right. Well, I personally can't remember the neighbors bringing food or anything. They probably did, and I didn't see it happening. And I remember at one point during that time, they had a relief fund where they took poor people flour or sugar, basic things like that, and I know at one point we got a bag, and I couldn't imagine where that came from or why they did that.
This is just like some weird anomaly or something like that. Just this is the way that it is. Okay. So what about as you're growing up, like as you get older and older, so into middle school, into high school, that sort of thing? Like, talk a little bit about that. Or I guess there wasn't any middle school, you said. You go up from 8th grade and then it's on into high school. So now you're the youngest at this point, and like you're the baby. Yeah. No other kids. You're like the families, everybody's, moving out of the house. So talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Well, my brother was 3 years older than I was. My next sister was 5 years, so they were still around for a while. But I remember one time we didn't have any cash we just didn't have cash to give to the school or to any collection that would be taken up. I put my penny in church on Sunday.
Got it.
That kept things going. But I needed in early high school, maybe, the teacher asked us all to get a new notebook and bring to school. And it was a quarter, and I didn't have a quarter.
Mm.
Mama didn't have a quarter. So she put some eggs, I think 6 eggs in a bag, and for me to take to the little store that was in town. And she would sometimes do that. The lady would take it. So I had to go in and ask her if she could take the eggs, and because I didn't have a quarter.
How old were you when that happened, do you think?
Early teens, I guess, maybe, or maybe before. I can't.
So for something like that, was that like a struggle, or was that like awkward or whatever when you
It was very awkward.
So you recognized at that point, like,
yes,
this is, we're not doing great.
Most kids don't have to do that.
Okay,
and
so
I
you
had
realized
to do it.
that
It
at
was,
that point. But I mean, you think about it, and it sounds crazy, right? Like, are some eggs that I want to trade for a quarter so I can buy a notebook, Which it sounds kind of crazy, but if you think about it, also, it's not that different from what you do now if you need extra cash or something, right? With eBay or Craigslist or whatever. I mean, clearly not to the level of like the eggs that my chicken laid that I'm going to trade in for a notebook, right? But even so, I mean, people still do that same kind of thing, which I think is kind of interesting. But all right, so let's back up. Let's go back a second before we go too much further, because I want to talk about like life when you get home from school. So let's go back to grade school. School is over for the day. Maybe you went home in the middle of the day for dinner, is what we're calling it, right?
Yes, it was dinner in the middle of the day.
So you're back home. What's the rest of the night like? You don't just sit down and watch TV and hang out and do your homework, right? So
no.
What do you do?
Well, we played outside, and my brother and I played together.
Okay.
I didn't have any real close friends that lived.
Okay.
Live real close by.
So there's like fun stuff. It's not like you
fun.
go home and you're, 6 or 7 years old.
No,
time to
it was normal.
do the work.
There was nothing wrong with that.
Right. So you just
We
go
get
home and you play.
We got to play for a while.
Okay.
And we had our chores. We
Right.
had to bring in the wood.
Yeah. Let's hear about the 6-year-old, 7-year-old chores. Bringing in the firewood.
Bring in a bucket of water from the well that we had to pull the bucket up out of the well.
Got it.
And you had to have, in the winter, of course, it had to be fireplace. That was our heat.
Okay.
And the wood stove in the kitchen for cooking.
Okay.
And you had to have the kindling, little splinters of pine.
Right.
And
now, are you out there collecting that stuff, or how are we doing that?
Well, I remember the wood pile out in the back, which we would order a rick of wood.
What's a rick of wood?
You'll have to look that up. I can't remember what the definition, but it's a certain amount of wood that you get.
Right.
A rick.
Right.
That just came to me. Sorry.
That's what. But like, when is the last time? Wait a second. When is the last time in your life that you had to use the phrase "a rick of wood"? Like
the
where's
day we
that?
got it.
You what?
The day we bought it, I guess.
But the last time that which was in what, the 20s or 30s? When is the last time you bought a rick of wood?
In the 30s, I guess.
That's great.
I graduated in 38.
Okay. All right. So back up. So your chores, you're bringing in buckets of water. You're getting the kindling from the rick of wood that you've purchased. What else? Any other kid chores that you have to do?
Well, you had to clean the globes on the lamps.
Okay.
Take the lamp and clean it with paper or something.
All right. Cleaning the globe lamps. Are we
Yes.
talking electricity, or are we talking
coal oil lamps?
Coal oil lamps. So no
And
electricity.
No electricity. Okay. And you had to take your little gallon, and container, and go to the store and have it filled with coal oil, and take it back for that. I mean, that was once in a while. You didn't.
Okay. So that leads me to something else that I wanted to talk about. All right, but before we do that, so let's finish off a day in the life of a six-year-old or of a first or second grader or whatever. So you're done playing outside. You're done doing your chores. Do you have like schoolwork or homework you have to do? Did they do that?
In grade school, I didn't have much.
Right. All right,
No.
so
Or I didn't do it.
Okay. So then, so then what? So after all the chores and the playing, like do you have like so it's like supper is the nighttime meal, right?
Yes.
So let's
yes.
be official here, right? So we have dinner and then supper. So, and then what's the rest of the night? Is there leisure activities? Are we reading? What else are we doing?
No, it's not easy to read with a lamp.
Right. So then you just,
What
happens? Just go to bed?
Go to bed.
That's it.
It's dark, you go to bed.
It's dark and you go to bed.
I
Okay.
get.
And then, okay, so let's talk about then, which is the thing I kind of want to know. So this house that you lived in, like walk me through the setup. Like how big, how many rooms, how much land did you guys live on, all of that. How close were your nearest neighbors, that kind of stuff.
Okay, now we had moved 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
So I'll tell you about the house that we moved in after my father died.
Okay.
We got $1,000 or something like that from the railroad. And we
So $1,000, like $1,000 settlement from the railroad?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know that exactly. I remember asking about it.
Okay.
And nobody
Right.
had the details exactly on it.
Right.
But I know we put it down toward a house
Mm-hmm.
to buy a house. And the banks closed
Mm-hmm.
in one of those years, maybe 30. I don't know what it was.
Mm.
I would have been 10 then.
Right.
And that money was gone.
Okay.
So we're back to
Nothing.
to scratch.
But you have your house at this point?
We're living there, and
Okay.
I'm trying to think of when we moved. I was 12.
Well, so walk me through the setup of one of these houses.
Okay, the house
That's what I want to know. Like the
Okay,
houses where
when I
you're
was
bringing in
7
well
to-
water and yeah.
7 to 12,
Okay.
we lived in this house, and it was up on a little hill, sort of. The gravel road was in front of the house, and there were 2 entrances on the front, and 2 front doors, and a porch, a little fence around it, and there were maybe 10 acres that was there. I don't know how many acres there were. It was a big wooded area, and there was a pond in the back, and we had our cows there.
Your cows, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so the house itself, like how many? So at this point, you're between the ages of 7 and 12. So when you think about it, when you say you had 9 siblings, you feel like you need this gigantic amount of space, or you're just super crowded. But I guess so many of them are already moved out and married. So
Let's see. The 3 oldest ones were gone.
Okay.
So how many does that leave?
So that
us?
leaves you with 7 kids in a house, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
The mother and all these kids.
Right.
Okay. So the front room on the right side was my 2 brothers' room. And next to that was, don't want to get it mixed up with the next house where there was a bathroom inside.
Okay, so then in this house, no bathroom.
Right.
So we're doing the outhouse situation. No electricity.
No.
We have our coal oil lamps.
Yes.
We have our wood stove and our fireplace. We're bringing in water from a well.
Yes.
Right. Talk a little bit about then, like the meals that you remember eating or cooking or helping with or whatever. Like you have the way that you have like the kitchen set up without the running water and all of that. Like how does that work?
Well,
like what do you remember any, like, you know what I mean?
Yes, I remember the kitchen that had the big wood stove and a table with your wash dish pan and your rack for your
Right. No dishwasher, obviously.
No, not for many years.
Right.
And there was a dining room. Well, there was on the left side of that house was this long room, open room that had 2 beds, 3 beds in there, 2 double beds and a single bed. There was a bedroom in front of that. You go to the first one, and that was a bedroom with a fireplace. And
Are there how many levels of the house?
just one.
Single level house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, all right, so we've got the inside of the house with the no electricity or dishwasher or washing machines or anything like that. You mentioned cows. Can we talk about the cows and the other farm animals that we have?
We had a lot of chickens.
Right.
So we had plenty of eggs, and we had plenty of chicken.
And is this all
eat.
I mean, is this all for you and your family, or is this something that like you sell to other people, or
We didn't sell to other people then. At the next house that we moved into, we did sell milk every day. We put a quart of milk out for the lady across the street from
Okay.
us.
So we have chickens and we have cows. What else?
We had 2 cows.
2 cows.
We needed a lot of milk. So we made our own butter.
Okay.
We had lots of heavy cream and
Right. What else? Well, it's pigs. Do we have pigs?
no we
Hogs.
didn't. No, they would buy a whole hog and have it. We had a smokehouse
Okay.
where you
Wait. So what's that?
to
So that's
cure
like,
the meat. You
Right.
hang the meat in the smokehouse.
right. No
and there's a-
refrigerator. Can't refrigerate.
No,
the stuff,
we have,
right?
but we have an ice box.
Okay.
An ice box, and we have an ice man who comes by and delivers ice 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
And there's a card if you to tell him how much ice you want.
Right.
That has the number on it that you hang in the door or the window, and he'll see if you want 6 pounds or 8 pounds, and he
Right.
has these gets in the back of his truck and takes the block of ice that's that big.
Right.
How they kept it cold, I don't know. It was hot. And he would have these huge ice tongs that he would hook into it, bring it in, and put it inside our ice box.
Right. So just like blocks of ice.
A big block of
And
ice.
then you would like
We
with your
had ice
pick and your-
picks
yeah.
to chip off what
Right.
we want.
Right. Right.
And you had a pan underneath the ice box that as the ice melted, it went in. And don't forget to empty that, or
Don't.
you're going to have an overflow.
Okay. And what do you do with that extra? Is that the extra ice water? Are we doing something with that, or is that just?
It's tossed
you
as
just
far
thought
as
it's
I
like,
remember.
you don't even know. Okay, good. Okay, so we got our smokehouse. I'm glad we talked about the ice man and the ice box. That's a weird thing. What else? You mentioned a pond. Is this just like a pond for decoration, or we have?
Oh, I think it just happened,
Okay.
and the cows had
Right.
water to drink,
Right.
and we used to go down and play in the water.
Okay.
We could fish for
How
little
big is this pond?
crawfish.
Oh, fish for
It
crawfish.
was a pretty big pond.
Okay. What? Any other things that you can think about that just from living at that house and on that property? Can you think of any other weird stuff or?
Well, I learned to ride a bike there.
Right.
And my bike was the bike that my oldest brother, who was 16 years older than I am, I think it's right, knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother used it. I guess the girls, maybe, I don't remember them using it. But I know I learned to ride it. But
How old were you in that? How old is bike riding age?
10,
Okay.
11, to
Okay.
12. I lived there till I was 12.
Okay.
So I would lean the bike up against the fence in the front yard, and I couldn't reach all the way around. I could only push it and wait for it to come up and push again, but I was ready.
Right.
ride it down the little slope till it hit the gravel, and then I would fall off and get up and go push it back up and ride it again.
Okay. And then, so you live up on this little hill with your pond and your cows and your ice box. And what about like the neighbors? How close is the closest neighbor?
Right across the street,
All right.
across the road, Uncle Jimmy, Uncle Billy, and Aunt Matt.
Are these
Two elderly people.
is that their nicknames or are those your real uncle? You don't even
As far as I know,
just
they're just nicknames. I don't know what their real name was.
Okay.
I don't know what their last name was.
And so what town or township or city or what are we parish? That's what we're calling them, right? Like
We're in Caldwell Parish, and we're in Grayson.
Okay. And how many of these like I know these places still exist, but like could you go back and visit this house right now, or is that long
Yes, we visited that house. We went past it.
gone? Right. Still has the ice box. Still has the wood stove.
We didn't go in.
Right.
I think they have electricity now.
I would hope.
But the house was still there several years when we went back. I don't know what year it was.
That's crazy.
But Tricia was with me. I was with Tricia.
Right.
And I wanted to see the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady who was there was Miss Ludi,
Mm-hmm.
my math teacher from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And she came out, and I spoke with her, and she was 100.
Wait, when was that? I mean, we're talking like
What year was it?
how many years ago? 85?
85, maybe.
Okay. So you go back in 1985 to this house that you lived in when you were between 7 and 12, so in the 20s and 30s, and your old...
First, she was a first grade teacher for a long time, but then she taught 7th and 8th grade.
So your old 7th or 8th grade, first grade teacher is living there who's now in her hundreds.
Yeah, well, she was.
Right. Or was in her hundreds, obviously, in 85 or whatever it was. That's
Right.
crazy.
Okay.
So when so the other thing this has kind of reminded me, and something that I wanted to talk about, or something that I think about a lot, is just kind of like, I guess, technology, not over the years, but like technology kind of moving forward and what that's going to be like and how much crazier the world is going to get as things change, right? So like self-driving cars and computers and all of that stuff, and how much that will disrupt what life is like, and maybe in good ways and maybe in bad ways too. So like going through a day in the life in the 20s where you don't even have electricity, let alone, any of the other sort of like conveniences. When did you first move somewhere that had electricity in the house, or did you guys get electricity in that house?
I don't think we had electricity in that house, but the next house when I was 12.
And was that like revolutionary when you moved? Like, was that crazy?
That was big time.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
So what else? So let's talk about that move then. So when you're 12 years old, now you move into a house where you don't need to get the coal oil for the lamps.
Right.
So yeah, talk about that a little bit. What other things?
Well,
in
the
that
light,
house?
you had to go to the middle of the room to find the string that was hanging down from the light bulb in the middle of the ceiling.
Okay, so we have one light.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yes.
Convenient. What else? What other, like at that house, do we have, what, like appliances? Are we talking?
There was, we still had a wood, we might have had an electric stove there.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember.
Okay.
I didn't do my research.
That's okay. What else in that house? Like what else?
There was a bathroom with a sink in it.
Okay, so now, whoa. So now we're moving from outhouse with no electricity to new house with a light bulb that you can pull the string to get light, and no outhouse anymore.
No.
We have an inside bathroom with a sink and running water, right?
No.
Okay.
Not in the. There was a sink in the bathroom.
Right.
But and there was a place for the toilet, but the toilet was not there.
Okay. Was that rectified at some point? Like, did
No.
you get a toilet eventually?
No, we never did.
Okay.
We had an outhouse.
So you still had an outhouse whoa, back up. So I'm confused. So you move into the new house that does have a toilet or does not?
It does not have a toilet.
Okay.
It has the spot where it was. That's
So do you
boarded
use that
over.
like indoor bathroom to go to the bathroom then?
What? Say that again.
So like you have a bathroom inside the house, right?
It's now just a room because we don't have the toilet in
So
there.
you
We
still
don't
had to
have
use an
running
outhouse
water.
at that point? You're still using an outhouse even though you have the...
Yes,
Okay.
we didn't. The doctor. That was the Dr. Hines' house,
Dr. Hines, okay.
and the doctor took the toilet with him when he moved.
Okay. And then you're just, we couldn't
The-
afford another one, or we just...
Couldn't afford another.
So that is crazy.
Wouldn't that have been nice?
Yeah, wouldn't that have been nice? So then how old were you when you first moved into a house that has electricity and running water and like an actual bathroom? When did that happen? When in your life did that happen?
When I graduated from high school, I moved in with my sister in Vicksburg, Mississippi,
Okay.
to go to business school there.
Okay.
And that was my first indoor bathroom.
Right.
They had a lot of firsts.
Right. So before that then, so still, before you graduated high school, when you're living in the houses without bathrooms and electricity and that kind of stuff, is that normal for that time period, or that the area in which you lived, or did you recognize, was that something that was, most people did have bathrooms or did have?
Most people did.
So you knew that.
We still were a low-income family because the older
right.
girls had moved out and had started their own families.
And then, so what happened once you graduate and then you move out? Then what? Like what's your mom doing?
Well, she stayed with my sister, who's nearest my age,
Okay.
and she had always made her home with her.
So then we just sell that house. That was the end of that after you graduated?
We were renting that house.
Oh, okay. I get it.
$10 a month.
$10 a month.
And my sister, who put me through business school, sent that $10. I'll give her credit. Earl B's
Good.
mom.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But you didn't ask me about my high school routine with the cows.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear the high school routine with the cows.
Okay. My brother was 3 years older than I was, so
Okay.
he graduated first, and he had been milking the cow, and he moved. He went in the Navy, something to do. And Mom said, we can sell the cow and not have any milk, or you can milk the cow. So I chose to milk the cow.
Every morning before high school.
And every night before you go to bed.
And
So
That's
that
the other-
was a routine. This routine was that I got up in the morning and milked the cow, and then come back and take her to the house that we had lived in before that had the acreage of the woods in the back and the pond. And I would walk the cow back to that house and put her through the fence. Open the gate and let her go spend the day there to eat, to
Right.
graze,
Okay.
to whatever.
I get it.
And then I would come home and eat my breakfast and get ready for school.
It seems so unbelievable, Like that's the thing.
You did it.
It seems made up though, or it seems like
I had a good imagination.
well, no, I mean I believe you, but it seems like out of a movie or something like that, or it just seems just so far away from this kind of life nowadays.
Yes.
Do you like? I guess there's a lot of people. I don't know if it's a lot of people, but like I see a lot of things online, and there's reality TV now of homesteaders, of people like purposefully trying to live, I wouldn't say like a simpler life, because certainly it's harder in so many respects. But, you know, do you feel like those were simpler times, or is it like, thank God that is done and now I don't have to milk any cows? You know what I mean?
Of course, I'm so grateful that I'm out of that, it was such a relief not to have to do that. Can you imagine? If I wanted to go out, I was dating in high school, but if some guy asked me out, I had to wait until I got home to find out if it was okay if I could go in my early dating years.
Right.
And then when I came home after school, if I said yes, then I could tell him the next day, yes, I can go. Okay, then I had to, because you didn't have a phone to call.
Right, we didn't even talk about phones.
You have to see them. You have to go there to communicate.
And then, so as you start getting, like we were talking about technology a minute ago, so as these things start happening, was it sort of like a slow progression? Like, oh, all of a sudden now we have a light bulb, now we have a telephone, or was it like an immediate change where like, holy shit, this is crazy. I have all of this stuff now. You know what I mean?
No, you never felt. I didn't ever feel like that.
It was just
not until I moved away from Grayson.
And after you graduated high school.
After I graduated.
And then it was like a different world at that point. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then in Grayson, so just help me out a little bit. So like, I know you guys were not as well off as other people, but electricity and phones and that sort of stuff, is that what most people had in your town growing up?
No, not most people.
Okay, so even then it was just
still a lot of people didn't have phones and didn't have electricity,
but you knew about it. Like, you obviously know these things exist. Is there anything, I don't know if you can do this, is there anything nowadays that you could kind of equate that to? Like, are there, like, right now we're sitting in your house, which has pretty much anything you could want, Is there anything that, like, are there other people in the world now that you feel like they have, you know what I mean?
Like if I only had that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think I'm very comfortable here. I used to have a hot tub.
Right, I remember that.
It would be nice to have a hot tub.
It would be nice to have a hot tub.
But that's...
So that's the one thing.
It's
the hot tub.
What else?
Okay. Good to know. All right, cool. Let's end that for today.
Well, the one thing
we got one more?
Well, when we were talking about the milk and the cow.
All right,
you
really want to talk about the cow stuff.
I had to go back to school. I'd get ready and go to school. After I had milked the cow and walked her to the fence,
right,
field, whatever I called it then, and came home, and I would rush to school, and I would be late. And so one morning the principal came outside his office as I was walking to my class, to the school. And you want to know why I was late every day?
Mm-hmm. And it's because of these cows.
My mom won't wake me up. Said she's not waking me up any earlier to get up.
To get up to move the cows.
Yeah.
To milk. And so is that an acceptable excuse?
Yeah. He said, forget about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. Anything else you want to say about your cows or your first 12 years of life, 12 to 17 years of life? Any other stories kind of while we're talking about this? I mean, we can talk about it more later, but...
I don't know. Does he want to know about the chickens?
Sure. Let's hear about the chickens.
When we had fried chicken.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's hear it.
Okay. We had the chickens. They were out in the yard. Mama wanted a chicken. She would tell me which group the chickens, because there were pullets and there were hens, and you had to know which one I just didn't go chase one down.
Right.
So I would chase it down. And why did I want to tell you this?
I don't know. because you want to make.
How do you
want chicken? You want fried chicken?
We want fried chicken.
So you have to go get the chicken.
So I have to.
How old
I
are you when
catch
you're doing this?
Well, I'm between 12 and 16.
So it's
So-
all right. Teenager running
Yeah,
around
I'm
the
a
yard
teenager,
chasing
and I'm the
chicken.
only one left now.
Hmm.
My brother's gone now, and
Right.
my sister, that's 5 years older than I am, is still there. So I go out and I'm chasing. I was pretty good. I could run pretty fast, and I got it cornered and caught the chicken. And then you put the chicken's, hold it by the feet, put the chicken's head down on the ground,
Right.
take a broomstick, put across his neck, and you pull the feet up with one good strong jerk and toss the chicken into the grass. And it jumps around like a chicken with its head cut off.
You were just waiting to set up that one. That was it. That's all you wanted to say about that.
But there's more.
Okay.
So you take the chicken, and
Right.
at this point, my sister Oprah was there to help with this. She had brought out a big bucket of like boiling water, and you dunk the chicken in the hot water, hold it for a few minutes, and then you pull it out and pull all the feathers, pluck all the feathers off the chicken. And then you take it inside, and I think you have to singe it because there are little tiny hairs on it, and you singe that on an open fire, and then it's ready to
And then you cook it.
cut up. And
So
but
there's a-
somebody else did that. I didn't cut up the chicken. My mom did that.
So there are people nowadays, particularly people in my kind of age group, who are interested in this kind of stuff just for the sake of doing it. You know, it's like they want to know where their food comes from. It's almost like there's a resurgence in this kind of thing. It's weird.
Exactly.
So we're in Annapolis, Maryland. There are people who I know who raise chickens. I don't know if they do it for. I think they may just do it for eggs and that sort of thing. But I mean, when I was growing up here, that seemed unheard of. And nowadays, like there are plenty of people who want to do that kind of thing. Just like with the milking of the cows, is that something that you would ever want to go back to, or is it just so great that we can just go to the store and get some chicken?
It's just wonderful that I can go buy chicken.
Right. So-
I can buy it already cooked.
Right. So what about like I don't know if you can even remember this. So like the fried chicken that you had back then versus fried chicken that you could have now. Difference? Like is that better because it was just homegrown and you
Probably.
but not enough to raise your own
No.
chickens for it.
We didn't have all those recipes that you tried for
Right.
chicken parmesan.
Right. And then
We had lots of chicken pot pie, chicken and dumplings.
Right. Oh, all right. Anything else that you want to talk about from that time period, or about raising the animals, or any of that kind of stuff?
Not really.
Okay, we can talk about some more stuff later. All right. Cool. Thanks.
So that's it. Episode 1 of A Southern Girl Talks Back. If you guys have any questions, you can email me at jake@jakepasco.com. If you have any questions you want me to ask Graham, if you have any questions for me, I am happy to sneak them in and ask them in subsequent episodes. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Thanks.